Formula One has been shaken to its very core. The latest tremor didn't come from the track, but from the sharp words of Mercedes boss Toto Wolff. Out of nowhere, Wolff unleashed a statement that struck right at the heart of Red Bull's future, their much-celebrated engine partnership with Ford. For months, Red Bull has paraded the deal as a symbol of security, proof that they had the next era of Formula One firmly under control. But Wolff's sudden comments have poured doubt over that narrative, hinting that things might not be as smooth behind the scenes as Red Bull wants the world to believe. His words landed like a thunderclap in the paddock, igniting fresh rumours of cracks forming in one of the sport's most hyped alliances. And make no mistake, this isn't just a war of words. This is a direct challenge to Red Bull's pride, their credibility, and their power base in Formula One. Wolff has once again shown that he's not afraid to throw the first punch in a battle that could decide the future of the grid. The question now is simple. Did Toto Wolff just expose the first weakness in Red Bull's partnership with Ford? The backstory only adds to the drama, and it reads like a Hollywood script. When Honda stunned the Formula One world by announcing their withdrawal, Red Bull was left exposed. The team that had risen to dominance on the back of Honda's power units suddenly faced the very real possibility of being stranded without an engine partner. Panic spread behind the scenes, and all eyes turned to Christian Horner. Would he fold under the pressure, or find a way to protect Red Bull's empire? Talks with Porsche promised salvation, and for a brief moment the paddock believed a blockbuster alliance was about to reshape the grid. But that dream collapsed almost as quickly as it began, the deal falling apart before ink could even touch paper. What looked like a lifeline turned into another brutal blow, and Red Bull was once again on the edge of uncertainty. It was then that Horner made the boldest gamble of his career. Instead of relying on others, he declared Red Bull would take destiny into its own hands. The team would build a brand new engine division from scratch, right in the heart of Milton Keynes, an empire designed to rival the manufacturers that had ruled Formula One for decades. When Ford later stepped in as a technical partner, the gamble suddenly looked like a masterstroke. The announcement was hailed as the ultimate power move, a declaration that Red Bull wasn't just here to compete, but to dominate long into the future. To many, it was proof that the team had secured its place at the very top. But beneath the celebration lurked the question Toto Wolff has now thrown back into the spotlight. Can Red Bull really climb this mountain and build an engine to rival Mercedes and Ferrari in 2026? Or have they set themselves up for an impossible climb that could break them before it makes them? Red Bull didn't just dip a toe into the world of engine building, they dove in headfirst. The team poured staggering resources into creating Red Bull powertrains, assembling a new army of engineers and recruiting top talent to stand shoulder to shoulder with the sport's giants. Their ambition was clear: to become a manufacturer in their own right, joining Audi as one of the fresh faces leading Formula One into the 2026 era. And what an era it promises to be. Gone will be the expensive, complex, and often controversial MGUH systems that have long defined hybrid F1 engines. In their place comes a sharper focus on sustainability, with regulations putting far greater emphasis on electric energy harvested from the MGUK. It's a reset button for the sport, and the perfect opening for new challengers to rise. Yet when Toto Wolff addressed the media at the Dutch Grand Prix, his verdict was delivered with trademark bluntness. He made no attempt to sugarcoat the scale of the task Red Bull faces. The odds are against them, Wolff warned, his words slicing through the optimism that Red Bull had tried so carefully to build. And then came the killer line, one that instantly ricocheted around the paddock. That's Mount Everest to climb. Wolff explained the weight behind his comparison. Mercedes, Ferrari, and Renault have spent decades refining their engine operations, building layer upon layer of knowledge, infrastructure, and expertise. These weren't departments created overnight. They were dynasties forged in the fire of competition. Red Bull, in contrast, was attempting to construct a cathedral of engineering in just a handful of years, but even as he sounded the warning, Wolff wasn't foolish enough to write them off completely. Having said that, you can never underestimate anyone in this sport, he admitted. If you have the firepower to build something from scratch with fresh ideas and maybe even new approaches to innovation, you can surprise the world. It was a backhanded compliment laced with doubt. On one hand, Wolff acknowledged the sheer financial and intellectual muscle Red Bull can summon. On the other, he made it clear that conquering the mountain ahead isn't just about money or ambition. It's about time, knowledge, and experience. And those are currencies Red Bull may not yet have in enough supply. The reality is hard to ignore. Very few believe that Red Bull's in-house power units will be capable of matching the firepower of Mercedes or Ferrari straight out of the gate in 2026. The mountain is simply too steep, the experience gap too wide. But Formula One has learned painful lessons from the past, and the FIA is is determined not to let history repeat itself. No one wants to see a repeat of the 2014 to 2017 era, when Mercedes launched into another stratosphere while rivals gasped for air, and Honda endured years of humiliation before finally clawing back competitiveness. That's why a new safeguard has been written into the rules, a safety net designed to prevent the grid from splintering apart in performance. Wolff, never one to waste words, drove the point home with chilling clarity. The odds are against them, but it could be that, for whatever reason, it flies, he admitted. And then came the fine print that could make or break Red Bull's dream. Even if it doesn't, the regulations say that if you are more than 2%, some even argue 3%, behind the best power unit, you are granted more dyno allocation. You can dig yourself out. But make no mistake, that doesn't happen over a race or two, and it doesn't even happen in a season. It takes years to reset the balance. Wolff wasn't finished. He acknowledged the gamble for what it was, an audacious, almost reckless challenge that only a team like Red Bull would dare to attempt. It's a huge task they've given themselves by deciding to do their own engine, he reflected. And yet, with a sly reminder of Red Bull's history, he left the door open. Remember when they took over that chassis team? Everyone mocked them. People said an energy drink company can't compete with Ferrari, Mercedes, or McLaren in Formula One, and yet they won. So maybe, in 5 years' time, we'll be having a very different conversation. But the shadow of doubt never fully lifted. Wolff underscored the reality that the engines of today are far more intricate beasts than the chassis battles of the past. The hybrid systems, the energy recovery complexities, the staggering integration of combustion and electrification, all of it makes climbing Mount Everest even more daunting. Only if the regulations evolve, perhaps towards simpler V8 engines with a modest hybrid contribution, might the climb become less treacherous. Until then, the path remains brutally steep. That safeguard Wolff alluded to has already been codified. It carries the suitably bureaucratic name of additional development and upgrade opportunities. Under this framework, the FIA will step in at regular intervals to measure the true performance of every power unit on the grid. Any manufacturer that demonstrably falls behind will be granted a lifeline, extra budget cap headroom, increased dyno hours, and even the chance to tweak their homologated engine design. The first of these calibration checks will come after just 5 Grand Prix weekends of the 2026 season, a moment that could decide whether Red Bull's daring gamble soars or crashes. And behind the scenes, the FIA is also designing a secondary safety net for reliability failures, knowing that under the tight constraints of the budget cap, one catastrophic flaw could cripple an entire program. Will Red Bull powertrains rewrite history and shock the world, or are they destined to repeat Honda's painful struggles from the past? Let us know in the comments. Until next time, bye for now.